Hey, good evening, friends. We're live again tonight. This is episode 106, and we really want to get right into talking about the war on cash. I stole that title from a article from Michael Saylor. I did add the part, is crypto the solution, or is crypto what's going to save us? And basically what we want to talk about tonight is inflation. I'm only going to talk about it enough to point you to some excellent articles and mention some thought leaders in the space and let you do some more research. And I do want to say before we get any further into this, just know that this is not financial advice. I am going to talk about a number of things tonight, throw out some numbers, throw out some thoughts and ideas about where Bitcoin could possibly be, where Ethereum could possibly be in the months and years to come. Talk about Dogecoin a little bit as well, and want to get started. So again, I've been reading and watching a lot of videos, reading a lot of articles where Michael Saylor is the key thought leader, if you will, in those discussions. Now, he is a maximalist, which basically means, and I may be simplifying it a little too much, but that basically means that he believes that Bitcoin is the crypto to own, to the extent that maybe he doesn't literally even own anything else. A lot of his colleagues, if you want to think of it that way, in the space are expand their horizons a little bit beyond Bitcoin to include Ethereum and a number of others, but he is a maximalist, and there are others out there. Also want to talk about the concept of what's been called a Bitcoin supercycle, and tonight I'm actually not going to pull up what I normally do, which is to show the leaders, market cap, all of that, just because I want to get right into this topic. Dogecoin, I'm assuming, is still at number 4. Honestly, haven't looked today. Bitcoin would definitely be number 1, Ethereum number 2, and then the number 3 spot, I honestly normally kind of forget about that because I don't look at that so much, but did want to get into this article by Michael Saylor, and really just get into it. So I do need to pull it up again here, and some of it I'm literally going to just read through, and we'll go through it together because it is that good. I'm dealing with a nasty cold, cough, something like that, so if you'll bear with me, I really would appreciate it. So here I've got an article, and as you can see, like I mentioned, I stole the primary part of my title, The War on Cash. Michael Saylor is the founder and CEO of a company called MicroStrategy. They are a analytics, data mining, all of that kind of thing type company. They would not be in the minds of many that are up on tech. They're kind of behind the scenes to a lot of people, but Michael Saylor is an MIT graduate in both some type of mathematics, I believe, or aerospace and mathematics. So he's got a lot to say about a lot of things, but we're just going to actually dive into this article. Stay through the end. I'm going to also point you to, in the description, towards the bottom of the description on YouTube. You'll need to go to YouTube to see that. I don't think the description comes through on Twitter or Periscope or on Twitch. I'm actually going to put it in the I'll put it in the comments, the YouTube link, that is. Let me put it in here real quick. And I want to welcome everyone. Aaron, welcome. Thanks for being here. We're going to jump right to, again, this article. Again, we're going to talk less about Dogecoin tonight. I really hope that my audience doesn't come only for Dogecoin. Again, as excited as I am about the run that it's on and all of that, I think there's some broader topics that are important, definitely that I want to talk about, that certainly extend beyond Dogecoin, but still within the cryptocurrency space, blockchain, all of that. And I believe that in the next 10 years, it's going to impact all of our lives, whether we know it or not, and many people will not. I don't think know that it's the blockchain that they're interacting with, if you will, with their with loans and payments and all kinds of things. The internet, literally, file storage, the blockchain and applications running on top of Ethereum and other blockchains similar to Ethereum are revolutionizing the world. Cardano, and I'm going to give a list also of some favorite altcoins of mine, and we're just going to talk through, and I'm going to break away and highlight the comments like I always do, and so hang tight. But MicroStrategy Chairman and CEO Michael Saylor warned about the toxicity of cash and traditional assets on a recent Blockworks webinar. I don't know who Blockworks is, but this has to be a really good resource if they're interviewing Michael Saylor and he's spending the time with them. I think that validates the fact that they're reputable. And this is fairly recent, dated March 23rd. Some bullets. MicroStrategy CEO warned about the toxicity of cash and traditional assets on the recent webinar. We've already mentioned that. The never-ending expansion of the money supply has created stampedes of capital into other assets, which perpetuates the effects of inflation. I talked about this last night. Stream was fairly short, but talking about, why do you still have your money in a traditional bank? Obviously, you need an amount where you can still pay for things the traditional way, because cryptocurrency hasn't completely taken over yet, so we still have to pay mortgage, rent, any number of everyday type things. We still have to, most of us do at least, still have to pay those things in traditional manner. It's actually possible, if you had enough cryptocurrency, Bitcoin especially, Ethereum and some others, if you had enough of it and were willing to spend an asset, which I wouldn't recommend, honestly, at this point in time, and I know Michael Saylor would not as well, but you could technically do that for a lot of your everyday things. There is BitPay, for example. There's BlockFi. There's Crypto.com. A lot of these decentralized finance applications, many of those running on the Ethereum network, for example, allow people to use cryptocurrency more than ever before. But we're not quite to the tipping point where it is an everyday occurrence. But let's read through this a little bit more. When Michael Saylor wants a loan from a bank, so he's painting some scenarios. When he wants a loan from a bank, like any other businessman, he gets an accountant to prepare a financial statement. They present their assets. Once it's signed, it goes to the bank to the credit officer to look at, and there's trust in place from a decade-long business relationship, and the loan is approved. The inefficiency of it all, the relationship took a decade. So it took a decade for this relationship to be built. Again, he's talking in somewhat generic terms, but painting the picture that is true for most businesses. They do have to establish over time a relationship with a bank or banks to be able to get capital. Many companies obviously try to keep cash reserves, so they're still taking out large loans, some of them long-term, some of them short-term, whatever, but you're going to see he's painting a picture of how inefficient the current process is and how blockchain and Bitcoin and Ethereum and others are basically changing that landscape forever, or probably for at least the next 2 decades at least. And so, and what's the loan denominated in? Cash, right? U.S. dollars, yen, euro, whatever currency it is that you need it in, and whatever country you may be in. But cash being an asset that's expensive to move around and devalues by the day with the world's ever increasing money supply. Now, I don't think he talks about it in this article, but Michael, in many other places where I read his work, he suggests that there's at least a 15% inflation rate currently. It may be in this article as we move through it, but imagine year over year, if you have your cash sitting in cash reserves and it's not earning any significant amount of interest, it's certainly not going to be earning 15% interest. You're going to have to put it into stocks and some other things potentially to get that. And, 15% a year, you're lucky if your money doesn't erode, right? Almost 50% away in just a few years. So anyway, how do you get a loan from a Japanese bank for 13 days, for example? Talking about, any other country, you're U.S. trying to get a bank from a Japanese, or get a loan from a Japanese bank. It's impossible. Sailor equipped on the webinar. It takes 6 months to establish a relationship with a bank. That's at a minimum for most organizations. But a version of the impossible scenario Sailor describes happens in DeFi, decentralized financing, all the time thanks to the blockchain. There are dozens of lending protocols that allow an individual seeking credit to post their digital assets as collateral. Here's the key. Using Bitcoin, using Ethereum, using any number of other cryptocurrency, maybe using stable coins like USDC, USDT. It probably just depends on the bank, how progressive they are, all those kinds of things. But the relationship honestly doesn't have to be so deep, because you are providing an asset that is known to have value, very liquid, universal, an asset that's also appreciating in value, not depreciating in value. So it's becoming more and more attractive. We also know that institutions far and wide, both here in the United States and abroad, are getting more and more Bitcoin, especially putting on their balance sheet. We know that MicroStrategy has done that to the tune of several, like 400 million, something along those lines, a lot. Tesla, a lot. There's actually a list that I've included a link to where you can see all the top corporations and the Bitcoin that they have on their balance sheet. It's totally mind-boggling, honestly, how things are going to rapidly change and how it's going to affect us all. And we're going to talk briefly about here in a minute about this Bitcoin supercycle and how, within probably this year, if all the experts, if you will, are correct, Bitcoin at some point this year being $100,000, Ethereum being, maybe as soon as October, $20,000 plus. So the theme of this story tonight is going to be, as much as I love Dogecoin, definitely have some, I'm going to throw out the biggest monkey wrench of all tonight amongst those that cover Dogecoin. I'm going to suggest that you may want to consider, again, this is not financial advice, but something anyone might want to think about, is setting a limit sell on at least enough of your Dogecoin to take some profits, because it could go right to $2 after it goes to $1 when Elon Musk does his Saturday Night Live thing. But you've got to be aware that the whales are out there, that they're definitely, when they want to, manipulating the price. Who knows what they have in store? Just don't be left holding the bag. Don't be left, being one of the last ones still in when it hits $1 and then it actually at some point starts potentially going down. Again, I'd prefer that it go up, but be prepared for the fact that it could be going down instead. And at some point, it's likely to dip anyway. You may want to consider putting in a limit sell if you have, if you have Dogecoin or planning on getting some, and at least protecting your profits. I would hate to see people lose, hard-earned money, lose profits that you've already gained through this, and then have to wait maybe months, maybe years to recoup, maybe never. Maybe you become a millionaire. All of those are possibilities. Just make, good choices, good decisions, and only you get to determine what that is. So that's just my 2 cents on that. So I know we've got some comments. I'm going to get to those. And once we have some, we will. All right, there we go. Sorry, let's switch here to... All right. Okay, let's read through this again. So there's a dozen lending protocols that allow an individual seeking credit to post their digital assets as collateral, and for lenders to inspect them and offer a credit line they feel comfortable with. Now, this is going to be small business, medium-sized business, large business, multinational, multi-billion dollar a year companies are going to be able to take advantage of this. But in order to be able to take advantage of it, they're going to have to be smart enough to have Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe some other select altcoins on their balance sheet. If all they have is cash, they're not going to really be able to take advantage of this, and they're going to be hit by inflation. And again, a lot of this is going to gravitate down to literally peer-to-peer in essence, right? You with someone else coming up with terms using an app on a phone or a website that is DeFi for an individual, just something as simple as PayPal with a smart contract. And that's where Ethereum comes in. That's where Cardano comes in. That's where Cardano comes in with regards to you investing in something that's still, available to most people with regards to the cost. I mean, ADA, Cardano, I think today was in the 130 to 140 range. I still think that that's an excellent buy. I think that's still something that you could do very, very well with. I'm not going to give any price predictions other than to say that, definitely I would say probably within the next 5 years, if not much sooner, we're looking at $10 a coin at least. Many believe that it's actually better than Ethereum. They just have a marketing problem, if you will, in many ways, because Ethereum got a head start on them. By all accounts, ADA or Cardano is a better platform, faster, cheaper, all of those kinds of things. So they have a ways to go. But if you have the time, if you will, in other words, unless you're retiring in a year or two, and if you can wait 3 to 5 years, I highly recommend that you look into Cardano. Highly recommend that you also look into VeChain, which is VET. We'll talk about that more maybe other than that specifically, but those both are on my list. But I also can only just say what I'm doing. I'm heavily looking into buying as much Ethereum as possible, buying at least fractional coins or a fraction of a coin, probably not more than a fraction of a coin, maybe even a whole Bitcoin. Bitcoin, again, I think I've already mentioned this, in the next 10 years, likely $1 million a coin. Now's the time to get in. It's been as low as this week, 50,000, I believe. Last week, it went down into the 40s, the high 40s. I know that's a lot of money, but depending on what you have set aside, you may be able to figure out a way to, especially if you've got that much in other traditional means. If you've got $50,000 that you've got in a savings account, in a bank account that's set aside for quote unquote a rainy day, my advice is to look at some of these apps. I'll just use the term apps like BlockFi and others, which are highly liquid, where you can earn interest on your crypto, but take it out at any point in time that you want, convert that back to US dollars. It will have appreciated. So let's say you have $50,000, $60,000. Even if you can't get a full Bitcoin, buy 75% of a Bitcoin, get that into BlockFi, for example, and there are others, but BlockFi I have a link for. BlockFi I have an account with. I use them. I feel confident that it's safe, that they know what they're doing. So I'm comfortable recommending them, but put your money somewhere where it can actually work. Where you have a hedge against inflation, where you're getting basically a double whammy, as I say. Not only are you earning interest, good interest, 5.25%, I believe, on BlockFi, you're earning interest on an asset that all things considered should be appreciating in value. So day one, you're earning 5.25% on, let's just call it $60,000. A year from now, that's $150,000. So now you're earning 5.25% on $150,000, the equivalent of $150,000 in Bitcoin or Ethereum. Ethereum, I also believe this year, very possibly reaching 20,000 plus. Right now is the time to buy Ethereum if you believe that that's where it's headed. Even if you believe that it's headed to 4,000, and that's it. When you look at the performance of that, and if you look at over the next several years, definitely going into the 20,000s and maybe beyond, there are many that believe that it's going to outperform Bitcoin now. Outperform Bitcoin doesn't mean be priced the same as Bitcoin, but the percentage increase over time. It's believed by many, again, I like to say those that have more time than I do, more resources than I do, have come to the conclusion that Ethereum very likely could outperform, as far as percentage increase year to year, outperform Bitcoin. So something you definitely want to look at, in my humble opinion. So I do want to get back to the comments. If you guys have any questions, anything you want to dialogue about, that would be great. I've talked already earlier in the stream, since I kind of set the precedent of spending some time on Dogecoin. I'm not going to pull up any screens or anything like I said tonight, but there's not much more to say than to say that it has done excellent. It's at 62 right now. I believe today it's been as high as 70, maybe even hit 71, so all-time high. A lot of amazing things coming out, more and more merchants accepting it, many of those through BitPay, which we've talked about as well. The Oakland A's, I think it was yesterday, announced that they made Major League Baseball history by processing ticket sales in Dogecoin through BitPay. So, I'm just concerned that a lot of people are, and some people have, don't get me wrong, hoping to get rich off of Dogecoin. And if they hold too long, it's going to dip potentially really, really fast as the whales potentially sell off. I guarantee you, over the last month, the whales have been accumulating. Been very happy that there's been all the excitement that there has been, and with their tools, with their knowledge, with all of that, you better believe that they're going to be the ones to start selling first. The whales, generally speaking, have already proved that they're not necessarily hodlers, hold on for dear life. Some are. Actually, the one that owns the biggest wallet out there, 28%, has been very inactive, but in the top 200, a number of whales that have tons and tons of Dogecoin have been buying and selling off and on considerably. So, yeah, I mean, imagine, hey, Aliska, good evening. Imagine, again, just imagine three Ethereum buying 3 whole ETH. Right now, I'm going to pull it up. So it's at $34.71 right now, and I'm not suggesting that $3,400 is not a lot of money. And multiply that times 3, we're talking, upper 9,000, whatever that would be. Actually, that's 10,000, I guess, something. But then multiply that out or do the math if it makes it to 20,000 this year. And that's highly likely. Again, it's not advice, but it's highly likely. And here's the reason why. The Ethereum network, although it is inefficient compared to some of the things that are coming, although it's inefficient, although it is more expensive transaction-wise than what it will be in the future, tons of these applications, decentralized finance applications, are running on the Ethereum blockchain because that's what it was designed for. They are the first ones in that have been successful in doing it, so they have the advantage of being the first blockchain to use all this. And like I said, Cardano, which is an ADA, is starting to pick up steam. Now, one other thing I will say, if you were wanting, for example, Bitcoin, Ethereum, some Dogecoin, for example, some Cardano, which is ADA, some VeChain, VET, Polkadot, which is DOT, some of those, and earn interest on most of those and be able to buy them all in one place, you might want to look at Voyager. Voyager, at this point in time, is only an app. I've talked about it before. You can't do trading on a computer. You have to do it on your phone, which most people probably could care less about. They did, in all transparency today, have a short period where the system was down, but Robinhood has had similar problems. Other exchanges have had similar problems. You're going to have to accept the fact that this is still a market that's maturing as far as just the volumes coming through. Imagine, for example, that yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, eToro, which is another kind of exchange / app / platform to buy cryptocurrencies, announced that they were going to start allowing people to buy Dogecoin on there as well. I believe their user base is 20 million. So each time one of these new exchanges take on Dogecoin, for example, or take on another hot altcoin that people are wanting to buy, there's strain on their system and on the blockchain that it all runs on and everything. So there is some growing pains, and you just kind of have to accept that as being a part of all of this. So you need to plan accordingly. That is where it helps if you're primarily investing as a someone that's trying to accumulate, buying during the dip, and then just has a mid to long-term approach, and you won't be phased at all by these downtimes. Because the other thing is, if you have a long-term view, you need to understand and realize that there's going to be cycles where, let's say you own Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin was as high as 2 weeks ago. I think it is now. Time just flies. Maybe it's been a week and a half. Was as high as 62,000, and it went down as low as at least 49,000 if it wasn't lower. So imagine buying on the dip on that. That would have been incredible. And if you bought on the dip, you kept what you already had. It's at 56,000. So it kind of had a bad day yesterday. I think it lost 1,000, 2,000, but it's gained all that back. And if it's truly headed to 100,000, 200,000, a million, and I know those seem just so crazy and outlandish, but again, where this is headed with regards to all the institutions, J.P. Morgan, Chase, Goldman Sachs, PayPal's buying 70% of all the newly minted Bitcoin. There's already 18 million plus. It's 18 million something Bitcoin that's already out there, that's already in circulation, that's already owned by someone. There's only going to ever be 21 million. So we're only 2 million more. And then it's going to just start circulating amongst the world, not just here in the United States where I'm at. We're talking about, most of the world. And in some developing countries, they're actually, embracing blockchain technology and settling payment, if you will, between two parties using all these platforms. And so it's coming like a train, whether we want it to or not. There is not likely any stopping. Some governments are going to try. They will find, I'm pretty sure, that they'll be left behind on the world stage if they try to not be on it, and they'll just be left behind. Them as a government and their people will be worse off in many ways just because of the convenience it's going to bring, the corruption that it's going to get rid of, the efficiencies that it's going to bring. Cardano, for example, again, similar to Ethereum, spending a lot of time right now in developing countries because, a lot of these developing countries need so much help. And also in a lot of developing countries, there is a lot of voter fraud, apparently, right? And so doing voting systems on the blockchain, that is, a tremendous innovation, if you will, and a good thing for, governments where people are elected fairly and there's no fraud and all that. So it's totally revolutionizing blockchain, and all the things that implies over the next 10 years is going to totally turn things upside down. And from an investment perspective, and that's one of the areas I guess I want to highlight, I think whoever's watching this, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the replay, owe it to yourself to be educated and know that where some of this is headed so that you can get in before it's going to hurt a lot more, right? And I'll give you an example. In other words, let's just use easy terms. Bitcoin, let's say right now, is $50,000 a coin. And let's say before the year's out, it's going to be 100,000. Now, I'm not saying that a year from now or before the year's out when it's 100,000, I'm not saying don't invest, but at that point, it may be too late to be able to buy at least one full Bitcoin. You may have to buy a half of one, which means now you're, forever only able to reap half of what you could have reaped, right? Just literally months ago, if you'd acted. So I realize, and I'm in the same place. So if you're watching this, I hope a lot of people will actually watch this. I know it's taken me a while maybe to get to my points, but I've spent a month now, a little over a month, actually just diving into all this, and it has hit me like a brick that, number one, I wish that I had evaluated this 5 years ago. And I know to some it might seem like I have just forgotten all other things and that cryptocurrency is the solution to all problems, all things. That's so far from the truth. But the fact of the matter is, it is a fast-moving target, if you will, right now, that if people don't move, you're forever going to lose out on some of the gains that you could otherwise be a part of. You should never jump into something, obviously out of haste or feeling rushed and pressured. But let's be honest, many of us have much more time in a day to do things than we may feel like we do, because we do it on other things. And you get to choose. Again, you do you, but just using examples, instead of, for example, watching 5 hours of Netflix or, whatever it is, getting on Clubhouse and spending 3 hours on Clubhouse or whatever the latest social media platform is, spend those 3 hours on watching every single video you can in those 3 hours, both positive and negative towards all this, and come to a conclusion on where you land on this and act. Because if you don't, every day you don't, it's just the reality of it. That's one more day that you're giving up the potential to gain those rewards. Now, not everything's about money, don't get me wrong, but if you want potentially financial freedom, if you want the ability to potentially work your passion instead of working what you have to work, all the same reasons you do all kinds of other things, all the same reasons that you start a business potentially, all of those kind of things. I just know that having now spent a month looking into all this, I have a clear mind on what the next step should be, at least what the next step should be, not what the next 20 steps should be, but at least what the next 5 are. That's to, get at least fractional ownership of Bitcoin, to buy a number of whole coins of Ethereum. I've already bought into Cardano, already bought into VeChain, already bought into Polkadot, and others that I'm looking at. I also know that I don't want to have probably until, let's say, my portfolio, I'll just throw it out there, let's say until my portfolio is $500,000, I'm going to focus on 10 coins, no more than 10 coins. That's just me. Everyone has to do what they think works best for them. I would only say I think this is the case, not for everyone. I think at some point you can get to where you're just chasing your tail, looking at there's tons. There's over 9,000 coins out there, tokens, cryptocurrency, whatever term you want to use. All of them are called altcoins except for Bitcoin. So just kind of the way they've started, that they distinguish them. But again, I'm ready to make some literally, I think, forever changing decisions on how to go forward in this space. Yep, you're right, Aaron. I mean, man. And it was offered. I just heard this today as well. I think when it first came out, and it's had its ups and downs as far as, was it going to survive? And there's been a number of what they call forks of Bitcoin. And thankfully, the original has, become the King Kong, if you will, or the granddaddy of them all. It is the ultimate store of value. It is gold 2.0, digital gold. It's faster to move than gold. It does a lot of things that gold can't do. Let's think about gold even. Gold was given the value it was given because people decided that gold would represent a store of value. It's not because gold intrinsically was necessarily amazing. Yes, people liked the way that it looked. They liked the color, all those kind of things, but it wasn't super durable compared to other, similar things. For example, silver is actually more durable. So a lot goes into that if you think about it. So I don't want to get into the debate of gold, versus something else. Again, at some point you have to just completely be outside of the system if you will, which is perfectly fine if that's the approach someone wants to take, or you have to embrace where things are going and try to, make it work to your advantage. I guess I'd say it that way. But yeah, I wish I'd bought, man alive, who wouldn't wish that they hadn't bought a number of Bitcoin at $4,000 even. Michael Saylor again, I think the average cost for the Bitcoin that they have on their books is $4,000 or $5,000 a coin, and it's worth twice now. It's worth twice what the original acquisition cost was for it. So it's amazing, and I just want people to think beyond. Since I have talked about it literally for 3 weeks and on, and more in some of the other live streams about Dogecoin, I still think that it's something that has some reason to be there. Yes, it was created as a joke, but the reality is, joke or not, let's talk about some of the things going on with Dogecoin. I actually posted today and went live and just recaptured one of the developers working on the Dogecoin code, and he was streaming on Twitch. I just restreamed that stream on my YouTube channel. You could go check it out if you want. It's on the channel here, but it's really interesting. So, there's activity there. There is real utility. I will say that there is real utility. It has the potential to be and I've been saying this for days now, an alternative to, or a substitute for, let's say the dollar, whatever currency you're using in whatever country you're in for daily, buying of goods and services, most things that you would use to use quote unquote the dollar for. But what I'm not sure of is, will it appreciate over time, like we know that Bitcoin will, like we know Ethereum will, like we know that, Cardano is going to, VeChain, others. There's Solano. There's a ton of them. Tezos, a lot of them out there that unlike being a currency, quote unquote, truly something you could use to buy goods and services with, a lot of these others are solving problems, track and trace of medicines, literally tracking things from raw material all the way to the customer, being able to track that whole life cycle, not to spy on people, but to be able to truly know in a private way, if you will, in an agnostic way with regards to not actually physically keeping track of who it is, but being able to solve the quality issue, solve the issue of the longevity of a particular product, or making sure that the shelf life of a medicine is adhered to. Imagine again through the blockchain where it can't be tampered with, a particular medicine, and with what's called an Internet of Things, you would be able to know and be able to let someone literally know per vial, for example, okay, this is expired. Doesn't matter what date it says, because someone could put a different date on there, but there would be a way to basically permanently tag that particular vial of medicine. It could not be tampered with. It could be 100% validated, and then if it's expired, then hopefully, obviously, they're going to keep that in mind and not use it. But anyway, hey CK, how's it going, my friend? Thanks for joining. We a little bit different night tonight. You might have seen the title was basically talking about the war on cash, if you will, and the premise behind that is that cryptocurrencies are hopefully going to be the great equalizer and a way that we can hedge against inflation. The money supply, not only here in the United States, but almost around the globe, and heightened because of the pandemic. I don't want to get too political, but I'm not so certain that at least all of the countries that have been affected by this have handled it in the right way. But regardless, here in the U.S. with stimulus packages, whether you think they're appropriate or needed or not, the reality is, trillions of dollars put into the economy has an impact, causes inflation. And so, how do you, as someone trying to protect the purchasing power of your money, how do you do that? What are ways? I mean, it's certainly not keeping it in the bank, right? It's certainly not necessarily putting it in a 401k, although, there are 401ks now and IRAs that you can wrap into and buy and, fund those with cryptocurrency. Problem I see with those right now, at least, is many of them have one of them literally has a $29 a month fee. It may be worth it, I guess, if you pick the right cryptocurrencies and put it in there, then maybe that's good. I don't know. So, but I just believe that more than I've ever believed before that cryptocurrency and real estate as well, although I don't talk so much about real estate, those are two key hedges against inflation. I also agree with Michael Saylor. We're probably looking at least here in the United States, about a 15% inflation rate, not the 2 or 3% inflation rate that's used with a consumer price index. An example that I read about today literally was Costco, for example, here in the United States, something like a Sam's Club, a club purchasing thing. They've basically applied or raised prices in a hidden way. So they're taking paper towels that's normally 140 count. They're now putting a count of 120 in there. They figured out a way to make the packaging literally exactly the same. The only thing that's different is it's 120 on the label. It would say 120 instead of 140. So it's 20 sheets less, but it's the same price. And so, of course, if you multiply that times thousands and thousands of units of that, then obviously you're passing on, you're basically, raising your prices without actually raising them. But what will be next, and it's already happening, companies are not being shy about raising their prices. But, here's the deal with companies. If you have a job, and I hope you do, raises are definitely not happening right now. So you're not even getting, in most cases, if you're getting one, that's great. But in most cases, you're not getting a cost of living increase. I know I feel very blessed to still have a quote unquote regular job. So, I'm not going to be pushing for, I want to raise, or I want cost of living increase. I know that I'm blessed to even have a job, right? Because of the way COVID-19 has been dealt with. So I think one of the primary ways, and one of the ways that I'm going to be working towards hedging against inflation, is investing as wisely as possible in cryptocurrency. And I have, my strategy would be, if I'm successful enough with cryptocurrency, some stocks, to have some returns, want to keep all of that in there for a year so that I'm pulling out. If I pull any, money out, do that after a year so that I've got the best possible situation with capital gains. I'm going to assume that President Biden's not going to be successful in raising that, at least at this point in time. And if he is, I'll just hold it for 4 years. And hopefully when he's gone, whoever comes, to be president next, and hopefully it wouldn't be him, if for no other reason because of that they would repeal the capital gains increase. Anyway, nonetheless, the rich get richer because of capital gains, long-term capital gains, not because they make a large salary. And they have assets, real estate, stocks, crypto now, all those kind of things. So that's where I'm going with that. Get gold, silver, euros, and all crypto from top 100. Okay, that's an ad. We'll be taking those chats away. So no self-promoting here. this is something that you invite on your stream. I'm learning when you talk about cryptocurrency, especially finances, especially those types of things, you start getting spam in your chat or in the comments. So I guess it's time to warn people. I don't have a WhatsApp that I will be putting in the chat or in the comments. I won't be putting my phone number down. I won't be asking you to send me money. I will have affiliate links in the description. I will occasionally cut and paste a link into the chat, but you'll know that it's for me, and it won't be a WhatsApp or a phone number, any of that kind of stuff. So be careful. A lot of spamming going on, a lot of fraud, a lot of those kinds of things. So just be careful. Only problem I would have, PETA, if it's legitimate, you may not be spamming, so I'll just say that. It's hard to know when I'm focused on, sharing with the community here. It's hard to know sometimes where people are coming from. But the problem I would have with euros is that's still a currency. I have no faith in fiat. Euros a fiat. U.S. dollars a fiat. Yen. Deutschmark. Whatever. Whatever kind of currency. So when I say I don't have any faith in it, in other words, I don't have any faith in the fact that it won't be inflationary because of the monetary policy of most, countries in the world. And so that's been, exacerbated, if that's the right term, because of COVID-19. But, it's like prices. Once a company increases their prices, they hardly ever have a price decrease. So what has to happen in order to solve that? Companies have to, en masse, increase salaries, and they're probably not going to do that as well. So your purchasing power, over a 5 to 10 year period of time just diminishes, 15%, 20% at a time. And so the example I like to use, $100,000, you put it in the bank today, deciding that you don't want to spend any of it for 2 years. Let's assume 0% interest right now, and let's assume 10% because it makes it easy. 10% inflation rate. 2 years from now, when you get ready to spend it, you really only get to spend $80,000 of that, because 10% a year inflation, simple math at least, your $100,000 now only has the purchasing power of $80,000. So, but the prices are not only, and let's say that you were saving up for the house, right? The house today is $120,000 or $100,000. Let's just make it easy. In 2 years, when you get ready to buy the house is not only still $100,000, it's probably $120,000. So now you're $40,000 short, as opposed to just being able to buy it in 2 years. So the inflation plus the appreciation of that asset means that you can't buy that house anymore, or you got to take out a loan and all that. So I think you get the picture. So we've been going almost an hour. I hope that you've gotten something out of this. I just want to challenge my audience to have some time to critically think about where is your economy heading, because you may not live in the United States. Where's your economy heading? What can you do to protect yourself, at least at some level? Protect yourself, and don't be afraid of Bitcoin. For example, buy 1/5 of a Bitcoin if that's all you can invest. 1/10 of a Bitcoin. Buy at least enough where you could put it on BlockFi, for example, or any other platform for that matter, where you can earn interest on your Bitcoin. Put it in there, walk away from it. When it gets to $1 million, then at least if you have a fraction of a Bitcoin, not only have you been earning interest, not only has that asset been growing over time, and then you're earning interest on the incremental increase in the asset, but at some point when you decide to buy a house or pay off a house or some of those kind of things, you have some options. I would also say, as long as you can actually earn fiat currency to pay for your everyday things and pay for as many things as you can, I suggest you do that and let your cryptocurrencies just continue to gain value, earn interest, all of those kind of things. So I have heard of Matic. I think Matic is, from everything I can tell, also a good something that you should consider investing in. So Palm G, I don't know. I have heard about that, and Matic is one that I'm familiar with. Now, I will say, you've also mentioned that it's gone 14x in 5 hours. That is not the only indication that you should get into something, right? So I'm sure that's not what you're saying, because I know SafeMoon, for example, not looked at a chart one on SafeMoon. I'm perfectly okay with people that are investing in it. I hope that they've actually done as much research. I hope they've spent hours and hours and hours, and most people haven't, but I hope they've spent hours and hours and hours looking into it, evaluating it, deciding whether it really should get in, because I know it took a 3,000% drop at some point. Maybe it's back up from that, but anything that takes a 3,000% drop, I'm not interested in it. That's just me. You don't have to be that. Dogecoin has been the opposite of that for the most part. It has been on an upward trajectory for the most part for that whole time, but it may also take a dive. I mean, again, thousands, hundreds of thousands, potentially, of people, if not maybe 1 million or more people. There's certainly been 1 million or more people exposed to Dogecoin with the ability to buy it. That Saturday Night Live thing that's coming, as exciting as that's going to be, don't be surprised if there's not a sell-off. It may not happen, but don't be surprised if there isn't. And so I said all that to say that for me, a 14 times increase in 5 hours is cool, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to invest in it, right? So what's the next thing, right? In other words, what's the what else do you need to see to say, okay, I'm going to put money in this? I think things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, as I mentioned, some of those are literally projects that are already world changing and will be world changing, and the price of that coin is going to be reflected in the fact that they are solving massive problems in the world on a large scale, and the price of that coin is going to reflect it. And I'm not a get rich quick kind of person. I'm always hesitant to do that, because then there's a certain amount of luck involved in all of this. But it's just like the guy, I'm happy for him, but the guy that at 33 became a millionaire with Dogecoin. First question I have is, did he cash out? Is he truly a millionaire, or is he a millionaire on paper, as we say? I hope that he does great. He may have already taken some profits. I know that he said that he wanted to, his story's great. Don't get me wrong. It's very inspiring, honestly. But at the same time, it's scary, because he took all of his money out, $180,000, sold all of his stock in Tesla and Uber and all those things, and actually basically took out a loan or did margin on Robinhood. So for him, thankfully, all the stars aligned and things went great for him. But if he hasn't actually sold out and it goes down to 25 cents or something crazy like that, which it may not do, but if it does, then what good was his story? In the end, he didn't become a millionaire. He didn't. And so everything that he was hoping for, is no longer. Now, I mean, if it goes down to 25 and he bought it at 15, he's still going to make some money, but he won't be a millionaire anymore. So anyway, I guess my point is be careful, be mindful of all the factors that are going on out there. It's not just one. It's not a simple matter. Hey, Manny, what's up? It's not a simple matter. Thanks for joining. It's not a simple matter of just, as they say, spraying and praying, right? Or throwing something up in the air and hoping that it comes down and lands exactly where it needs to go and all of that. I just want to be the voice of reason, the voice of caution amongst a sea of people that are just, rose-covered glasses. And I hope that's the way it turns out. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to be the contrarian simply to be contrary. I want to be the one that challenges at least those that choose to join me, either live or you're watching this replay. I want to be the one that is the person to challenge you to make sure that you've thought it all through. And in the end, if you have, we make choices that come with risk, and with risk comes reward. And I think that's perfectly fine. I'm just truly concerned about those that have not thought this through, just are literally thinking about getting rich, and it may not happen for them, but it may. Yes, Manny, it has. I mean, most of the stocks actually that I've been talking about that I either want to own or do own have not done very well right now. I think literally every one that I'm liking right now, and I'd like to believe I'd be honest about this if it wasn't the case. Every one of the stocks that I'm keen on or own, I believe they will recover. I think a key to all of this, similar to the crypto market, but not quite as extreme. Again, you should not invest what you're not willing to lose or what you're not willing to wait on. That's a big key. Being willing to wait. Back in the big stock market crash, obviously there were some exceptions. Some of the companies that crashed never came back, but many of them did. But many people had it on margin, right? So they didn't have the money to cover their margin calls, and they were wiped out completely. Those that weren't leveraged, as they say, and didn't need that money, had lived within their means, if you will, and weren't, I would argue, too greedy. Those that were able to hang on to their stocks, they did fine. They actually did very, very well. And if you were diversified back then, which many people weren't, but if you were diversified, you were also okay. There were obviously a lot of people when the dot-com bubble, happened. They were highly, not only leveraged, but they were highly concentrated in all these tech stocks that were way overvalued. When you compared them to the fundamentals of the company, all the things that you look at from a fundamental perspective. That being said, I'm not suggesting that you always only look at the fundamentals. We all know, just like Dogecoin for that matter, there's some fundamentals there, but there's also a lot of intangibles, right? The intangibles are people do get to decide if they're going to be involved. They get to decide what value something has. Dogecoin has the value it has mostly because there are enough people that say that it does. And I'm not the only one saying that. Mark Cuban said that. I think Elon Musk has basically said that. The creator of Dogecoin has even said that. So, which I'm buying on stocks, discounted stocks. Why not? Yeah. I mean, this is a great time, I believe, from a stock market perspective to buy, quote unquote, on the dip. I still like Neo. It's down. It would be a perfect time for me to buy some more. The Tesla, I mean, it's an expensive stock still, but I think it's a good buy. I think Palantir is another good buy. They've not gotten out of their slump yet. ARK Investment, their ARKK with Kathy Wood, she's, taking a beating right now, but she'll probably turn out to be the star that she's been in years past with regards to the portfolio that she's put together in the disruptive ETF and the others. They have 5 different ETFs, but their starship, if you will, or their flagship, I should say, ETF, which is the ARKK, is heavily weighted towards quote unquote disruptive companies that are disrupting, the current way of doing things. And so those are going to be tech companies, some of the high flying biotech, Tesla, of course, is in that, and a number of others. Neo, I think, is in there. So yeah, now's not a good time to be in the stock market if you are in a place where you have to take some profit, because there's not necessarily profit to be taken. It just depends, though, on what your portfolio is made up of, whether that's true or not. So Manny, did you see Aaron's question there? You might have a ETH is predicted to hit 90K. Yes. And Manny, been talking about that actually probably before you joined. Not, yeah, 90K, I don't know, but I certainly know 20. I certainly know 20,000. I'm definitely getting into Ethereum. I'm actually going to be probably up late tonight to kind of coddle or kind of watch it. I've noticed over the last couple of days at least a pattern of at some point starting out low, getting up to high, and then kind of working its way down again. I'm going long on Ethereum. I've been day trading it basically for a couple of days just so that I could get my it's a scary strategy in one sense, because here, I'll tell you. So I've been day trading on about a $300 swing. At days there's been about a $300 up and down between the lowest low and the highest high, and traded it multiple times during the day. Basically added a good amount, I'll just put it that way, to my portfolio, enough that now I can afford more Ethereum where I can go long. I'm going long on Ethereum. I'm going to put it where I can earn interest on it, and I'm going to walk away from it. What I mean by walk away is I'm not going to remotely consider selling it. The only thing I would remotely consider is putting more in there if there's a dip, dollar cost average, ride it all the way up to 90K if it gets there, definitely 20K. I think that's a foregone conclusion that 20K, I think it's also a foregone conclusion it's going to outperform Bitcoin as far as percentage gain, not how much a coin, but percentage gain. I think it's going to at least be on par with, if not flip Bitcoin in that regard. Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, Neo, Apple, Walmart, Disney, and Tesla. That's a good portfolio. I like that. The problem I have with Disney right now, I don't know how many of you actually have their Disney Plus service, and I'm sure they're working on this, but you can, if you binge watch or spend any time watching Disney at all, you've seen almost everything you want to see. And then these series, like the last one, The Winter Soldier, I think it's over now, so those last about 6 or 7 weeks or so, and then that's over. And I know they're pretty much going to have one series, I think, or try to have one right after the other. So the thing that I've literally toyed with the idea of canceling it for a month, and then basically doing it every other month, because I don't know that I'm getting my money's worth. But I know that's not all that Disney does, but that's one of the things that I don't like about Disney as it is right now. I can't beat that. I'm with you. I'm with you, Manny. I mean, if I could buy 20 of them, I would. If I could buy a full Bitcoin, somehow or another, I'm going to do that as well. My goal, and sooner rather than later, because I don't want to have to figure out how to come up with $100,000, but I want to buy one Bitcoin. I'm not saying it'll happen. I'm just saying that's what I want to do, and as much Ethereum as I can get, and then after that, start increasing some with the stocks that I'm keen on, like you've talked about, Manny, and then also putting more money in VeChain. VeChain is still very inexpensive. I think it's got a lot more legs than Dogecoin will have, for example. Again, I love Dogecoin and what it represents and what it has done for the greater cryptocurrency community. I believe it has brought a lot of people into the crypto ecosystem that would have never otherwise come in, and that's true for me. I might have eventually finally gotten into it, but it's Dogecoin that brought me into this cryptocurrency aspect of investing. So I credit it for doing that, but I think VeChain has ultimately a lot more potential than Dogecoin. It's still in the 20 cent range. Cardano's $1.30 something, $1.40. It's a competitor to Ethereum, and it will definitely make its mark. Ethereum may always be considered the premier top player with DeFi and with NFTs and smart contracts and all that, but Cardano has some really good technology that if they can get some marketing and get some traction, they can give Ethereum, at least with regards to the actual performance of the blockchain and the things they can do, they're going to give Ethereum a run for their money, as far as I'm concerned. Yep. I mean, Marvel's most of what we watch, honestly, nowadays on Disney. No, it's not, but VeChain is available. As much as I don't like some of the aspects of it, what I'm about to say, it is available on Voyager. So the thing I like about Voyager, honestly, even though it had some downtime today, but Robinhood had as well, thing I like about Voyager is a couple of things. For one, you get $5,000 immediate buying power if you put $5,000 in. Can't get more than that, I don't think, at least initially. But you can buy, and that would be a problem potentially to buy Ethereum there and Bitcoin. But as far as a lot of the altcoins other than Ethereum, you can buy VeChain on Voyager, and I've got a link in the description, by the way. It doesn't cost any money to sign up. I've heard that it takes a while to get your account, but I got mine within, I think, a couple of hours. So I think that rumor, or not rumor, but that was happening maybe initially. I think they've been able to catch up with that. But you can get VeChain on Voyager. You can get Cardano on Voyager. You can get DOT on Voyager. You can get Tezos on there, and a number of others. So they have a pretty good inventory, and I'm actually surprised that you can get VeChain on there, because most of the American exchanges, Kraken, I don't think you can, which is American, Coinbase, Robinhood, I think Gemini may be American, and I haven't checked it out, but most of those you can't get VeChain, because VeChain is a Chinese-based project, and you also can't get on most of those same platforms BNB, which is Binance's quote-unquote coin, because, again, that's Chinese, and, most of us, well, you can't use Binance at all in the United States, and there's Binance.us, but some states, probably New York as well, Texas for sure, you can't use Binance.us. So I really wanted to get into VeChain before it went up considerably. I didn't want to use something like Kraken because I didn't need all that level of sophistication yet, all the things that it offers. And I found Voyager, and on Voyager you can also earn interest. You can't earn interest on VeChain, but you can earn interest on Ethereum, Bitcoin, Cardano, DOT, Tezos, I believe, as well. There's a whole list. And go back, Manny, last night, if you'll go watch the live stream that I did last night, I actually covered that. That was pretty much the topic last night. Voyager happened to be the platform that I talked about because it had all the elements that I wanted to cover with regards to earning interest and the coins, at least, that I was interested in. So go check that out. I will tell you a few things that people have complained about with Voyager, in full disclosure. And again, it's free. You could put a little bit in and see if it works for you. And I need to look into this more. Excuse me, let me take a drink real quick. But I've heard that your order is limited to $5,000. So let's say you even had $20,000, or maybe you had USDC. Oh, and by the way, and you can go back and watch this and find it out, but USDC, stablecoin, USDC, you can earn 9% on that. So if you want some of your money basically pegged to the US dollar in this particular case, you can do that. So I've got a little bit of money. That's the first thing I did. I transferred some money in to kind of get the account rolling, put that in USDC, and then now I'm earning 9% interest on it. Actually, temporarily, you get 10% or 10 and a quarter. They've got a promotion right now where you earn a little bit more. That's only for 3 months, but you can. So back to what I was saying. If I understand it right, let's say you have $10,000 literally in cash, already gone through the ACH process. It's been settled. It's in your Voyager account. It's my understanding that you can only do a trade of $5,000 at a time. So if you wanted to buy $10,000 worth of a few things, if I understand it right, you'd have to do that in 2 different transactions. And obviously the problem potentially could be that you missed out on either the selling price or the buying price that you were going after. The one other thing that I'll mention, and again, it's okay with me because I'm still, I'll say, somewhat of a newbie, and convenience and just comfort level with how something works and all that. I'm willing to, I guess, give up some things. And what I mean by that is the spread can be at times be different. And I've also found that a couple of times when I put in a limit order that should have gone through didn't, because I guess of the spread that they're looking for. So they don't charge you any fees, but where they make their money is they basically try to find the best option they can on a number of exchanges, and they facilitate it that way. So anyway, just check them out. Maybe you put a little bit in there, see how it works for you. I like them. I'm fine with the few things that are that a lot of people are critical of them on. Now, again, it might not be the place if you can only buy, if let's say you're looking to buy 5 Ethereum, that might not be the best place to buy the Ethereum if you're if you have to do that in 4 different transactions. With Rob, what I'm going to do, this is just me, I'm going to buy my Ethereum most likely on Robinhood, because Robinhood is actually pretty good with regards to, if I watch kind of the patterns, I pick a limit buy, I normally get it, seems like, and then I can, when the withdrawal, portion is put in place, then I will probably withdraw it, transfer it to Voyager, and start earning the interest. If Robinhood offered interest on Ethereum, I'd probably just leave it right where it's at. So I've found, like a lot of people have, that sometimes it's best to, or you may find that you need a couple of different platforms. So I'm like your dad, huh? Super late to the party. Better late than never, right? As they say. So, I although I wish that I had gotten into it earlier, I have no regrets. I mean, it's actually not good as far as I'm concerned to regret too much. We only have one life to live, and most of us, I would like to believe, do the best with regards to, there's only so much convincing, right? And then something has to actually click in your own head. And but now that I know what I know, I'm sure that I will face the same thing. I'm sure that there are friends that I will have, relatives that I will strike up a conversation with, and I'm completely convinced. And I've got, now at this point, a considerable amount of hours ahead of them with regards to research, with thinking it through and all of that. So yeah, I mean, hey, what can I say? 5 years ago, I should have got involved, but I've done okay. But I certainly could have probably done better overall had I at least started investing some. So I'm going to assume then, Peter, that you're You must be a millionaire by now. I'd like to know how big your portfolio is since you were not late to the party. Problem with Coinbase is, Peter, if I'm saying your name right, the problem with Coinbase is you can't get all of the tokens that you want. You can't get VeChain there, for example. I don't think you can get a bake or cake. I know that sounds funny, right? Those are just the codes. I'm sure there's reasons for that, but there are, again, my top 10 list would include coins that you can't get on Coinbase, probably on Kraken, but and I have an account on Kraken. I've looked at Qcoin, and that's available to people in the U.S., and most of the things that I want to get, I can get on Qcoin, but I'm going to be honest, that the interface is just kind of difficult. You can't just transfer money in, and then I know a lot of these systems, have pairs, right? So it's USDC and BTC, or USDC and ETH, or USDT, and all of that. And I know there's a reason for all that, but I'm like, okay, that's so complicated. I just want to transfer in US dollars just like I do on Robinhood, and then tell it what coin I want. I want it to be that simple. I know there are reasons why it's not that system. I'm not, at this point in time, quote unquote, a professional trader. I mean, I've taken a pretty small amount and turned it into a much bigger amount, so I'm comfortable with what I'm able to do, but it's still on the side, and I need to be able to basically simply putting in a limit sell or a limit buy in most cases, and a market order when I need to, is about all that I need. Now, Kraken, I know Qcoin has this. I don't know if Kraken does, but Qcoin has a bot that you can use, which I could see myself using that if I learn how to. But I'm actually fine with Robinhood. So they've been they're going to keep the Krakens and the Coinbases and some of these other exchanges on their toes. Again, a lot of these other exchanges are only now starting to do some of the things that they're doing because they've been forced to, because of the competition that Robinhood has brought, and the making it available to quote unquote the common man. There is a lot of snobbery I've found in this space, and I'm all for breaking that down, because I honestly am not a big fan of snobbery in any form. But nonetheless, the euro is safe. That's funny. What do you mean by that? Are you telling me that the euro is somehow not impacted by inflation? I don't buy that. Every fiat currency in the world is subject to inflation. So I don't know how that would be even possible. Now, again, Coinbase, and you can get all of them. Aaron, I don't think you can. Go. I'd be curious. Go, and maybe if you use Coinbase Pro, I've looked. Actually, I'm going to pull it up, and we're going to look together. That's probably a kind of a fun thing to do. Coinbase.com. Sorry. Okay, let's go to prices, and then you guys can tell me if I'm doing something wrong here. But okay, so for example, let's put in VeChain. It should show trade over here if it was tradable. I cannot trade it, so that's 21 cents though. Go find a place where you can buy this and get as much of it as you can, would be my recommendation, at least. Okay, now let's put in BNB. You say all of them. BNB is not available either. It would have trade there if it was. Basically anything that's out of China, for the most part, I don't think is going to be there. Which would also include Bake, which is a part of the Binance smart chain And then Cake, for example, which is Pancake Swap, not available. See, so what about Tezos? I'm trying to remember. T, is it ZT, ZH? Anyway, I don't know what it is. TE. Yeah, Tezos. XTZ is available. This is another one that I'm thinking about. So anyway, a large portion of the 10 coins that I want to be into are unavailable on Coinbase. Otherwise, I'm sure I would use it. Aaron, remind me, I'm assuming obviously you're here in the United States. So do you exclusively use Coinbase? Again, I don't want to sound so down on Coinbase. Like I said, I really want one platform. I would love to have one platform that I use most of the time. Now, that being said, I also think it's depending on at what level you get to, it's probably a smart idea to have accounts on a couple of different exchanges so that you can make some quick changes or do some things if one of the exchanges is down. Aaron, I thought that was the case. I remember now that you're in Australia, so honestly didn't know that Coinbase was available outside of the United States, but that makes sense that it is. I honestly really wish that Binance, I'm sure there's some good reasons. I wish Binance US was available to me here where I'm at, because I think it would also probably have all of the coins that I'm looking for. And I believe that they also do staking in a lot of cases. So from what I understand, you have to be kind of careful about staking, making sure that you're not using some fly-by-night type place. So, I think that Voyager, that's probably technically not staking, but you can earn interest. So I like that about Voyager. You can earn interest on BlockFi, on a much smaller list, if you will, of coins, but nonetheless you can. So I like that. Robinhood, be really interesting to see them come out with an interface similar to, let's say, like Webull for the desktop, or within a web browser, something like what Kraken has or what Binance has, Qcoin has. They all look in many ways similar. I have not seen the actual interface on Coinbase. Maybe that's only Coinbase Pro, where you have all of the technical analysis that you can turn on and see the bid ask and all those kind of cool things. Not seen that part yet. But so tomorrow will be episode 107. And Manny, like I was suggesting, if you're still live, go check out last night's episode. See if Voyager might be something you're interested in, at least temporary. I will say on Voyager, you can also earn 2% interest on Dogecoin if that's something you're interested in. But the only problem with that right now is if you go to the transfer, option on Voyager, Dogecoin's not one of them. So like Robinhood, at least right now, and I've sent them a message actually, like on Robinhood, you'd have to cash out, I guess, if you wanted to transfer your Dogecoin, you just simply couldn't do it. If you just wanted to take profit on it, of course you could sell it, turn it into US dollars, and do what you want to with it. They do allow you to transfer in and out various other coins that they support, however. So check it out and come back for episode 107 tomorrow, and we'll do this again. All right, have a good one. Good night.